Hey, what's up, guys? It's Dave back again for another video. This one we're gonna talk a little history, a little ancient. Going over who were the Egyptians, who were some of those people over in different parts of the world. Did they sail to Americas? I'm into history, and I gotta say this. With history, or with whether you want to call it Black history, whatever the case may be, you can't you don't want to hate another group. You don't want to get into hating another group. I think you want to be after the truth. And the truth, whether that cuts you, pierces you, hurts you, the truth is what matters. And I think that's for those who are seeking the truth. Whether it's with history, with culture, with civilization, with whatever the case may be, the thing is get to the truth, because there's been a lot of lies, a lot of deception. There's been so much of that going on or whatnot. Um, when you finally get to the truth, it sounds like it's an attack. But we're going to come from two sources. This is one. I don't know if you guys really can see it. And then the other source is um, the Ethiopian origins of civilization. So we'll be coming from those two books. This is going to be pretty short. I'm just going to read a little bit and see what the scholars have to say. This is by Harvard scholar W.E.B. Du Bois, and the other book is by John G. Jackson. So let's go. So let's go with the Egyptians. Who were they? How did they look? The Egyptian of pre-dynastic times belonged then to the short, dark-haired, dark-eyed group of peoples such as are found on both shores of the Mediterranean. The same stock extended beyond Upper Egypt into Nubia. Their physical characteristics exhibited a remarkable degree of homogeneity. It's a tough word, but y'all know what I mean. They were homogeneous. Their hair was dark brown or black, and either curled or wavy. In the men, there were scant growth of facial hair except on the chin, where a tuft was found. They had long, narrow foreheads. We're going to scoot down just a little bit. The pre-dynastic Egyptians were short, scarcely over 64 inches. All characteristics of a group of people known as the Baja people. BJ people. I could be saying it wrong. It's Beja. Beja. That group of people. A black people who inhabited the eastern desert of Egypt. I'm repeating what the scholars say. A black people who exhibited the eastern desert of Egypt, the Red Sea province of the Anglo-Egyptian Sudan, and extended through the Italian colony of Rhaetia to Abyssinia. And he goes on to say the Bija are divisible into four groups, one of which is the Fuzzy Wuzzy, and then it goes on to kind of talk about something else. So, but I just want to cover that. That's one portion, and then let's see. We got okay. Let's go with this one, because now this is deep. Now see, this is just a study, guys. I am not an Afrocentric person in the sense of saying, just saying stuff to claim it. I try to see what's the truth of the matter. Okay, this is another particular part. This one is titled "The Asians or Asia in Africa." In one of the ancient books of Asia, says the people living in south of Lin Yi have woolly hair and black skin. Chinese folklore speaks often of these Negroes, he says, and mentions an empress of China named Li, Li, AD 373/397, consort of the Emperor Hasoa Wu Wing, who is spoken of as being a Negro. Okay, and going down a little bit part, this book goes on to talk about that the Asiatic and the African blacks were strewn along a straight path between tropical Asia and tropical Africa, and there was a much racial intermingling between Africa and Western Asia. In Arabia, particularly, the Mongoloids and Negroids mingled from earliest times. The Mongoloids invaded North Africa in prehistoric times, and their union with the Negroes formed the Libyans. Wow. Now I've never heard that. Their union, the Mongoloids invaded North Africa in prehistoric times, and their union with the Negroids formed the Libyans. Later, there was a considerable commerce and contact between the Phoenicians of North Africa, especially Carthage, and the black people of Sudan. Speaking of the mixture that went on in this area between Elamite black and Aryan white, the Greeks themselves seem to have known that two Susan, Susian, and I could be butchering some of these guys. I don't claim to be a scholar, but I'm doing my part. The Negroes of the plains and the Scythian whites of the mountains. The legendary hero who perished under the walls of Troy, a Negro father, Tathon, and a white mountain woman, a mother, Kisaya. Do they not say that Menon commanded an army of black and white regents? Like I said, I'm just going on, and we're hitting on different stuff, but this is more so saying, what I'm saying is, some of the stuff that we have heard is not especially when you deal with these ancient people, is not necessarily correct. We're just going through this. We're not following a linear path. We're going straight through, jumping from little nugget to nugget. Okay, another section. The Elamites, said Sir Harry Johnson, appear to have been a Negroid people with kinky hair. I will repeat. The Elamites, said Sir Harry Johnston, appear to have been a Negroid people with kinky hair and to have transmitted this racial type to the Jews and Syrians. Wow. That's deep. That's deep. I got to read that one again. The Elamites, said Sir Harry Johnston, appear to have been a Negroid people with kinky hair and to have transmitted this racial type to the Jews and the Syrians. There is curliness of hair together with a Negro eye, full lips in portrait of Assyria, which conveys the idea of an evident Negro element in Babylonia. Quite probably the very first ancient Negro invasion of Mediterranean Europe, of which skeletons of the Maritimes, and it goes on a little bit. And I don't know if you guys will be able to see this, and probably not to see what I'm reading, but I just want to make sure you guys upside down. I just want to make sure you guys don't think that failed. But I just want to make sure you guys don't think I'm making this stuff up. And there was another one because I want to highlight a little bit. It's a lot more that I can go into, but I'm gonna switch books and let's look a little bit about the origins, Ethiopian origins of civilization. One thing when you study history, because even when you're going back to the Hebrews or the so-called Jews, it is of my belief that those who say they are not the true Jews, or the true Hebrews. And it's there very well could be the true Hebrews or in the diaspora of Africa, the United States, so-called African American, those in Jamaica, the islands. They spread it out to the four corners of this earth. Now the truth is starting to be revealed, but it has been a lot of lies and a lot of deception, and I think we all have a part to overtake the lies and expose them. Okay, let's continue. A Venezuelan archaeologist holds that, and this is about Egypt and Atlantis. An Venezuelan archaeologist holds that there was once an inland in the Atlantic Ocean of continental dimensions, known to the ancients as Atlantis. That this island was settled by Egyptians, who in turn established colonies in America before the submergence of Atlantis. Now I've heard, and there are some claims that the Egyptians sailed to the Americas. There is a rumor that it is places in the Americas that have, whether it be pyramids or whether it be some Egyptian artifacts or whatnot. That's been a rumor already. That's very interesting if there was a connection between ancient, ancient Egypt and America. Let's see. We're going to continue, and we're going to go to. Okay, let's go. This is some more on Atlantis. Atlantis was connected with the history of ancient Ethiopia. There can be little doubt. The Greek philosopher Proclus stated in his works that he could present evidence that Atlantis at one time actually existed. He cited as his authority the Ethiopian history of Marcellus, in referring to Ethiopian history to prove the existence of Atlantis. Proclus plainly infers that Atlantis was a part of Ethiopia. See Corey's ancient fragment of Phoenicians, Carthage, and whatnot. So there you go. You have a Greek philosopher that's tying Atlantis to Egypt. Atlantis to Ethiopia. That's interesting. And let's see. We're going to continue, guys. Bear with me just a little bit, as I want to make sure I cover all the little just as I read, I try to underline stuff. And okay, let's go back and see. One thing I'm gonna tell you, I'm not necessarily a Hotep Egyptologist. I believe we are Hebrews, and I keep my faith in the Most High, the Creator of heaven and earth. We know that the ancient Hebrews looked like the Egyptians according to sources, and we're talking about the old times. Okay, if that's the case, we need to say, how did the Egyptians look? And as we do that, we learn how the Hebrews looked. And in doing that, you're exposing the truth. You say, what does it matter? Neither Jew nor Gentile, which is very true. That is very true. But it also, the truth shall set you free. And I have a position that maybe if the people know who they are, and not have been, they've been lied to, but if they know who they are, maybe that will help us live in a more, a better way. Maybe our relationships will be different. Maybe our self-esteem will be different. Maybe our spirituality and our relationship to the Creator of heaven, the Most High God, maybe that'll be different. So I look at history not from a point of poking your chest out, but from a point of exposing the truth, and maybe that truth can enhance who you are and your quality of life and how you treat your fellow man. Okay. Let's see. Okay. The traditions concerning Menon and interesting. Okay, let's see. He was claimed as a king by the Ethiopians. Nope, I don't want to read that. Okay, you have now. Of course, you guys know who Amenhotep, Akhenaten. It says that even more Negroid than those of his illustrious predecessors. That the earliest Egyptians were African Ethiopians, Nilotic Negroes. That the earliest Egyptians were African Ethiopians, Nilotic Negroes is obvious to all unbiased students of Oriental history. One of the authors claimed that the earlier civilized inhabitants of the Nile Valley in Western Asia were members of a great white race, and that's not correct. The ancient Egyptians and their influence upon civilizations of Europe, that was a book. So we see the sources are saying there seems to be concrete evidence of Negroid features amongst the pharaohs of old. Okay, and just go with me, guys. This is not a professional study. This is just ground roots, man. This This is at the ground root level. Let's see what else we got. Okay. So far, just to go over what we have the possibility of Atlantis, an ancient civilization that were that was according to history, black. We have the Egyptians according to history. So the question begs, I wonder what was the goal of those to change history? What was their goal? What was the goal to kind of like wipe a people out of history? I think that's an interesting thought. Let's continue. And this is concerning Ethiopia. In modern geography, the name Ethiopia is confined to a country known as Abyssinia, an extensive territory in East Africa. In ancient times, Ethiopia extended over vast domains in both Africa and Asia. It seems certain, declares Sir E.A. Wallace Budge, that classical historians and geographers call the whole region from India to Egypt, both countries inclusive by name, of Ethiopia. I'll repeat that, guys. The classical historians and geographers call the whole region from India to Egypt, both countries inclusive, by the name of Ethiopia, and in consequence, they regarded all the dark-skinned people and black people who inhabited it as Ethiopians. Mention is made of the Eastern and Western Ethiopians, and it is probable that the Easterners were the Asiatics, and it is probable that the Westerners were African. In addition, the scholar said, and this is Sir E.A. Wallace Budge. That's who we're quoting, Sir E.A. Wallace Budge. Budge notes that Homer and the historian Herodotus called all the peoples from of Sudan, Egypt, Arabia, Palestine, and Western Asia, and India, Ethiopians. Wow. Wow. Okay, guys, that's a find right there. In addition, Homer and Herodotus called all the peoples of Sudan, Egypt, Arabia, Palestine, Western Asia, and India Ethiopians. Herodotus wrote in his celebrated history that both the Western Ethiopians who lived in Africa and the Eastern Ethiopians who dwell in India were black in complexion, but that the Africans had curly hair while the Indians were straight-haired. The aboriginal black inhabitants of India are generally referred to as the Dravidians, of whom more will be said as we proceed. And that's very interesting. I want to say this too. Back then, don't look at race the way we do now. This racial concept was not. A lot of this is because of the powers that be, the transatlantic slave. Before then, it just messed up everything. Back then, a lot of that was tribes. So you had the Hebrew who looked like the Egyptian, except the Egyptian worshipped all these other gods, and the Hebrew worshipped Yahweh. You see what I'm saying? So don't get so caught up in the skin color that you forget that in those times it wasn't skin color, because the people back then were all dark skinned, or majority. But it was more so lineage, tribes. They worship this and they worship this. And what did Joshua say? As for me and my house, we're going to serve the God. If y'all want to serve the gods like these people, y'all go ahead. But as for me and my house, we're going to serve God. That's what it's kind of like. It's not necessarily a racial difference. It is a physical. It's not necessarily a physical difference. It is a spiritual and more so cultural difference, maybe. Let's see if we got. Okay. We have a view from Stephanus of Byzantium. That's a tough one. Ethiopia was the first established country on earth, and they was the first one to introduce the worship, and it goes on to from the religious aspects of it. Goes on to from the religious aspects. Okay, and then even if you want to bring it back to the biblical form, and I am into that as well. So In the Bible, the genealogies, Cush is Ethiopia, Mizraim is Egypt. They're brothers. While from the former sprang Nimrod, Babylonia. In regard to the language of the primitive Babylonians, the vocabulary is undoubtedly Cushite or Ethiopian. This is some good stuff, guys. Belonging to that same stock of tongues, which is sequel, were everywhere more or less mixed up with the Semitic languages, but of which we have probably the purest modern specimens in the Mahar of the southern Arabia and the Gallo of Assyria. All of the traditions of Babylonia and Assyria point to a connection in the very early times between the Ethiopians, the southern Arabia, and the cities on the lower Euphrates. In further proof of the connection between Ethiopia and Chaldea, we must remember the Greek traditions both in Cephas and Menon, which sometimes apply to Africa and sometimes to the countries at the mouth of the Euphrates. And we must also consider the geographical names of Cush, Punt, which although of African origin or applied to races bordering Chaldea, both in the Bible and in the inscriptions of Darius. And that's King Darius. Recent linguist discovery tends to show that a Cushite or Ethiopian race did in the earliest times extend itself along the shores of the southern ocean from Abyssinia to India. The whole peninsula of India were peopled by a race of this character before the influx of Aryans till it extended from the Indus along the seacoast through the modern Balochistan and Kerman, which was the proper country of the Asiatic Ethiopians. Wow. That's a handful. That's a handful right there, guys. So what we see is, guys, we see that there has been a lot of lies and deceptions. There have been a lot of mixing. Of course, this earth it's been here for a long time. So you had, different groups mixing. You had Moses going down into Egypt, and when he's fleeing from the Pharaoh, seeing the young lady, and she's taking him home, and he marries her, and there's an intermingling there. There's been intermingling for so many years. But I never forget not too long ago, well, maybe a year or two ago, when I learned about Negrito Island, the islands of the Philippines, and the people and how they look. And it's amazing because you don't learn this stuff in school in the Western world. And then it's like, I didn't even know these people existed. So this is a historical video, but I want us to be careful not to hate anybody. This is not about hating white folks. This is not about hating. God is the judge of that stuff. He knows those who are lying. He knows those who will say they false Jews. He knows that. All we can do is teach the truth to the best of our ability. And that's truth on everything, whether it's white, whether it's black, whether it's just the truth. And the truth has a way of letting things lay where they lay, allow where they lay. So this is just 2 books I want to go over. Thank you guys for tuning in. I didn't realize this video was however long it is. But thank you guys for rocking with me. Peace. I'm D, and I'm signing out, man. Take care.